How does a woman trapped in a loveless marriage and forbidden to work in India become the owner of a Bordeaux wine brand that is now distributed internationally? What does it feel like to spend 4 years building a wine business while your child is 5,000 miles away? And that makes me think of some deeper, more personal questions. Are you living the life you choose or the one that has quietly been chosen for you? And what would you risk if freedom suddenly mattered more than security? We're going deep today. Tonight, you're going to get those answers and more stories and tips to those questions with our guest, whom I'll introduce momentarily. If you're watching this video on the replay, please, in the comments, type the word replay and let me know where you're logging in from, what the weather's like. I want to hear from you. And of course, if you're here with me on the live stream, let me know where you're logging in from. I'm Natalie MacLean, and you've just joined one of the most passionate groups of wine lovers who gather every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern to talk to the most interesting people in the world of wine. Now, this recording this conversation is based on a recording I made for my podcast, Unreserved Wine Talk, but I'm live streaming it for the first time on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. So I'll be here live, so to speak, in the comments. So get in there and let me know, do you have questions that are unanswered? What tips and stories are you enjoying? And I'll respond to you. All right, and before I introduce our guest, just let me say that 3 of you are going to win a copy of her terrific new book. It's called Vineyard Melody. All you have to do is email me at natalie@nataliemaclean.com and let me know you'd like to win a copy. I'll pick 3 people randomly from those who contact me. All right, back to our guest. Namratha Stanley has just published her debut memoir, Vineyard Melody. It's a soul-stirring memoir that traces Nam's journey from the darkness of domestic violence in India to the sun-drenched vineyards of France, where she reinvents herself to become a wine entrepreneur. She explores domestic and cultural tensions, the challenges of motherhood, and of becoming the person she was meant to be, all the while finding healing in winemaking, storytelling, and travel. Vineyard Melody offers a message of hope, resilience, and rebirth, especially for women rebuilding lives on their own terms. She joins me now from her home in Bordeaux, France. Nam, we're so glad you could join us. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be on your podcast, Natalie, and thank you for having me as your guest.
Absolutely. Well, when you reached out to me and you told me just in a short couple paragraphs your story, it was just so compelling. I had to talk to you. But before we dive into your wine career, tell us about the time when you and your sister, when you were children, you apparently took off to see a blind lioness called Sheba at a veterinarian doctor's home in Bangalore. So what gave you this idea? Like, how far was it? Tell us about that experience.
That's a very funny experience. And this was around the time I was in ninth grade. And my sister, she loved animals, and she still loves animals. We are a family of people who love animals. And she came to me one Saturday afternoon and said, I know this person who has this lioness in the house, and he's rescued the lioness. She's partially blind, and it would be nice to go and see her. And she didn't tell me it was a lioness, the full-grown lioness. She told me she was a cub. So I was so excited, and that I was always adventurous. So she asked me if I could take her there, and I had this little motorbike. So I took her there, and when the veterinarian, he opened the door and we got in, I saw this huge lioness, full-grown lioness, sitting on the floor of a medium-sized house, living room, and
Wow.
I was so scared. But my sister, she was so brave. She sat down on the floor and she was petting the lioness like a dog and playing with her like a dog. And yes, she was partially blind, and she was rescued by the doctor and was getting rehabilitated. But it took time, so he had her in the house, and he was very kind enough to welcome us. But we had made a pact with I had made a pact with my sister that we wouldn't tell our parents about it.
Oh my.
So So we petted her. I just patted her on her head and went back home that night feeling extremely excited about this whole experience. And we did eventually tell my mother, but not my father, because my father was a little strict. But my mother
What did
got
your
to
mother
know.
say?
She was shocked and she said, never do this again without me.
Because that was a lioness from the wild. It hadn't grown up domesticated, right?
No, she was from the wild, but she was partially blind, so she was
Okay.
in need of care.
Right, right. So, oh my gosh. Yeah, your sister sounds like a real character. Real sense of adventure there early on between the two of you. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and now you have another childhood memory that's more disturbing, but again had a profound impact on you. Tell us about when you were with a cousin on the beach, what happened and what that meant to you.
Yeah, this is a little more bleak. Unfortunately, this memory has stayed with me. I think I'm going to take it to the grave, mostly because it's so profound. And this was when I was 8 years old. I was on the beaches of Pondicherry with my uncle and aunt and my cousins. We were there on a holiday. I was there along with my sister again. And my cousin was, as every beautiful day, we were enjoying the sea in the evening, and my cousin was standing near the shore. I remember it was dusk; it was getting a little dark, and my cousin was standing near the shore, and he was waving at me, and I ran to him, thinking, he must have found something, probably a treasure, and I go to him and I see this lovely face of a doll shining in the moonlight. And I pick her up and I drop her instantly. Um, I was shocked because it was not a doll, it was a baby girl. I could see
Oh.
the umbilical cord, the clip on the umbilical cord, and it sank into me that the gravity of the situation. And I looked at my cousin, we both were shocked. And, that memory stayed with me. It's basically in India at that time, female infanticide was so rampant and sex selective abortions was rampant. They've changed the laws. It still exists in little pockets across India. But that memory has made me really change my perspective about life and to navigate patriarchy, misogyny, and, a whole lot of things that a girl as she grows up, and a woman as we navigate life, that we have to face. And when I was stuck in a difficult marriage, things like that changed a lot of who I was to become the woman I am today.
And it also impacted you. We'll get to this, but the charitable drives and organizations that you support today, the education of women, the and of girls, and some of the other things you do. So really, it had a lifelong impact. I can imagine you will remember that one forever. All right. So tell us. Let's talk about your book, which is as described, full of light and darkness, but it's in the end, it's a happy story. Spoiler alert! But tell us in a nutshell what this book is about and what makes it different from other books that may be similar. Because there's kind of a genre of people finding themselves in the wine industry. From Peter Mills' Year in Provence to all kinds of things under the Tuscan sun. But tell us about your book again in a nutshell.
I think, Natalie, a lot of people, like you said, have written stories of survival, grief. They've written beautiful stories about Vineyard, and I think mine is an amalgamation of all of these stories because there's darkness and then you go into light. There's always hope in the story. When you read the story, you'll go from feeling terrible to feeling cheering for me and feeling that you want me to come out of this situation as a winner, and that's what happens. So it's Eat, Pray, Love. It's from scratch. It is a year in Provence. It's all put together, and the book is about that. It's hope. It is going to give hope to a lot of people who think life is just, you cannot go on further. But they will see that
Hmm.
when I thought life will not go on further, but when I took that first step, that life could go on further and you could discover beautiful things. Your life can become whatever you dreamed of.
Right. And you have a copy. Well, you don't have a copy of the book because it's not quite yet published. And by the way, pre-orders are really important. If you're listening, please pre-order the book. It's Vineyard Melody on Amazon or wherever you shop. But you have a copy. You sort of have a copy of the book. Maybe show that for those who are watching the video. You'll see the cover of this book. I'll put a picture in the show notes. There it is. But how did you create this book? Because you don't have the published book yet.
I
What's
don't,
underneath?
and you're absolutely right. I'm still waiting to get my copy of the book. But what I've
Yeah,
done is because, time is running out and publication date is 10th of February. So I needed some pictures for social media. So what I did was
sure.
I printed a sheet and I stuck it on Eat, Pray, Love,
The book
Elizabeth
cover, yeah, on
Gilbert's.
the
Yeah.
top of Eat, Pray, Love. I think that's good luck omen. If any, everyone must
Yes,
be familiar with Eat,
I
Pray,
hope
Love,
so.
and that, of course, is another journey of a woman who finds herself this time through food, prayer, and love. Yeah, okay. So anyway, that's great. So February 10th, but pre-orders are really important. They tell Amazon and any other book retailer wherever you live
Yes,
that this book is going to sell well if there's a lot of pre-orders. So that's important, and we'll put a link in the show notes.
thank you
So
so
what
much.
specific moment, absolutely, what specific moment convinced you that this story had to be written rather than just sort of living out? I mean, you came through it, you did the work, did the healing, but why did you want to write about it? Especially because you have a lot of relatives in this book, and they're not all portrayed in in the most positive light. Truthfully, from your perspective, I know, but that could be tough. So, what convinced you had to write it?
Memoirs are difficult to write, Natalie, like and I think somewhere between, I think it was about the late 2019, I was sitting and replaying my life in my head, and I was thinking, oh my God, I have this wonderful brand. And I was thinking from being a housewife to being abused to, moving to France and to having all these wonderful adventures in France. And I'm thinking, and that's when I realized, oh my God, this could be a book, and this could be a film. And I said, maybe I could start writing and, thinking about writing actually.
Mm-hmm.
So I was charting this in my head, but also memoirs are very hard to write because they are real characters, they are real people, they're real
Yeah.
incidents, and anything you say you can have a backlash. But as an author of a memoir, you always have to be courageous and to tell the truth. And once you have the truth backing you up, nothing's going to trouble you. And I've changed the names of the characters, the identifying details. I mean, it's usually what happens when you write the memoir. So I have done all of
Sure.
that, and I think that people who have done good in my life and been there for me, or that's great. And people who haven't been there and who've harmed me in different ways, they know who they are, and it's always. It always reflects back on them. This is not a revenge story.
Mm-hmm.
It is
Mm-hmm.
telling the story from my point of view, from my perspective, and that could be
Sure.
something different from the other person's perspective.
Yeah, they can write their own memoir.
Yeah.
One memoir said, for the people who complain, I didn't come off very well in your memoir. She said, well, you should have treated me better if you wanted to come off better. Anyway, what was the most surprising insight you discovered while writing the book, Nam?
I think while writing the book, I felt this inner voice that kept telling me, write. And as and when I was writing, I felt courage. I felt that this story could inspire a lot of people. And I felt that this is very cinematic. So I discovered that I could write. A writer, as a
Oh,
writer.
the surprise was that you could actually write.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
great.
because I was not a
Yeah.
writer. I'm a debut writer, and the first three chapters were really, really hard to write, and I kept it away. And I said, nobody's going to read this. But then I took it back and I said, there was some voice in me saying, write, the world needs this book. So I kept writing after, and then it was a flow.
Yeah, that's great when you hit that flow state and things get easier. The
Yeah.
words seem to come more easily. Um, so let's go into your story. Now, you met your husband, Moksh, at a family event in Bangalore, and you fell in love with, quote, his bewitching smile and charming ways. What were the early signs that you missed or chose to ignore? Because later those darker patterns of abuse did emerge.
Absolutely. I think that when we had a courtship period, so I hadn't seen any kind of signs, red flags as such. We were a perfect couple. A lot of people envied us. Now, going into marriage, what I realized was I didn't have that time where I actually lived with him. We were meeting outside, we were meeting friends, we were going out, but I didn't have that time period where I actually lived with him and his family and saw what it was to live in the family. So
Right.
everything was based on just love, love, and love, but the reality was completely different. So I wish there was that transition period that and
Right.
in India, live-in relationships are frowned upon. So I feel that if I had that, then maybe I would have, changed my mind. Maybe I would have seen the red flags much more closely.
Sure. Yeah, courtship is the fun part. But your father-in-law told you directly, allowing women of the house to work shows that we're weak and incapable of taking care of the vulnerable. That's culturally ingrained, obviously. But then you landed a job as a junior chef, and your family and your husband demanded you give it up. Can you describe that conversation? What happened, and how you? I think at that point you weren't married yet, but so you had to choose
Yeah.
between a career and marrying the man that you loved at that time.
Yeah, I think it was a really difficult situation to be in. Because on one hand you love this person, and the other hand you have to give up your whole career. And when my father-in-law told me that, we women are vulnerable, and uh, it's a s it's not in them to let a woman go out and work, I was pretty shocked because I came from a family who did believe in working women. My mother, of course, never worked, but my father always encouraged me and my sister to work. And a lot of people in my family did work. So when I was facing this situation, I was thinking to myself, I can ride a bike, I can make patisserie, I can do a whole lot of things. I was modeling also at that time. I was earning a little bit of money at that time. So I'm capable of a lot of things, and I had to give up not only the job but the modeling career. I had to give up literally everything. So it was very
Oh,
upsetting, but I didn't want to upset them. I was in this very tight situation. I did protest, but I didn't want to cause a scene.
that must have been tough. Because you describe your initial marriage as, quote, being trapped in a golden cage where each feather was slowly clipped from my wings. Wow. Your mother-in-law told you, listen to me carefully. After you marry, we will be responsible for your safety and well-being. It is not in our culture tradition to let women go out and earn. Tell us an example that might illustrate this is when you wanted to go visit your family, and I guess you are now married. What happened?
Um, I was completely taken aback because my mother-in-law told me that if you need to go and visit your parents, you have to ask your father-in-law's permission. And for me, that was kind of total control.
Mm.
And I realized at that point of time the extent of leverage that I had given to them by giving up my financial freedom. So I protested, of course, and I was stuck again in the situation where I had to convince them, but they were not getting convinced. Then I had to convince my husband, Moksh at that time, where you know, he understood to a certain extent, but he wanted to please his parents, so he didn't have a voice. And I felt disturbed. I felt like my whole life was going, sinking into an abyss. And
Mm.
I did, of course, protest. And, at a certain point, they realized that I'm drawing the line there, that I want to see
Mm.
my parents and I'm going to see my parents, even if I'm going to give up this relationship. So I think they stopped at that time.
They backed off a little bit. But then there's a harrowing scene where your husband grabs you by the neck and threatens you, quote, "I'll break every bone in your body if you ever try to humiliate me or my family." So what gave you the courage that night to call the police?
It still sends shivers down my spine that night.
Yeah, I can
Um,
imagine.
yeah. I was well into the marriage. I had a 2-year-old child at that time, and there was that evening a lot of abuse that had happened, and I was very scared. But I told myself if I wouldn't do anything, if I wouldn't react, then this is going to continue. I needed somebody to warn him, to draw a line and say, hey, this is not okay. Physical abuse and mental abuse, emotional abuse is not okay. And I wanted to give the message and I wanted protection.
Mm.
But unfortunately, I didn't have enough confidence with the system in India because there were many times I've heard, people say that the complaint was never taken. And sometimes most of the time, not sometimes, when you complain and then you don't have protection after,
Mm.
your abuser, they can come to you and they can do anything. And then what are you going to
Wow.
do? What are you going to say? I'm not
Oh
going
my
to have a
goodness.
cop standing next to me 24/7, right? That
Right. Right.
So it's a difficult situation to be in. There are laws that have changed now, Natalie, but I think that at that time, this I'm talking, a decade and a half earlier, those times were different. Um,
Mm.
Now it's still there, it's still rampant, and I should tell you that I filed a complaint recently, a couple of years back, and the complaint was not taken for a long
Mm.
time, and I had to really push to get that complaint registered. So yes, it's the reality, unfortunately, today for women. I cannot, as a woman, go into a cop station and register a complaint easily.
Wow. 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 So, in the meantime, in this terrible situation, you decided to learn French at the Alliance Française de Bangalore, kind of a French, not embassy, but school that teaches French, if I understand correctly. What gave you that idea? Were you just drawn to learn something, or was it French in particular?
I actually wanted to learn German. That was my goal,
Ah,
especially because
okay.
my aunt and uncle they live in Germany, and my aunt doesn't speak English. So I said, in order to keep away from the postnatal depression that I was getting into, I told myself I have to keep myself occupied doing something that's, gives reason to live, to to survive this situation that I was in. And I, but the German school was really far away. I I had to drive for an hour, almost in Bangalore traffic, and the traffic is terrible. So Allianz was not too far away. It was about 10, 15 minutes away from our house. So I would drive. We were not living with our in-laws. We had moved out to a house opposite to an apartment opposite to my in-laws' house. But still, I was always fearful that I would be watched or I would be asked where you're going. I always would tell my nanny. I had a nanny at the time. So in the afternoons, I would put my daughter to bed, and I would tell the nanny I'm going to the market, take care of her. So that really helped me, and it opened a window into a different world. So there was always fear, and yeah, somehow I finished B1 level, and they did come to know after, but I was already in a good level where I could speak good French.
Wow. Good for you. My goodness. And you said that through the French language you became completely immersed in French culture. What specific aspects of French culture really drew you to it?
Um, I think the very fact that it was almost like finding freedom, the liberté that the French call. Um, it's almost like finding France in India at the Allianz. People are
Huh.
liberal, people are, I mean, nobody is judging you. You can have a nice conversation with anybody in the campus. We are all there to learn. It was a window into a different world. We were learning about museums, art. We were learning about cinema. Were learning about music, and the the films gave me an insight into the real French culture. We were learning about wine, the boulangeries, and all of that. So I was seeing that in cinema. So somewhere it was a window into a different world, and I loved it so much. It was an escape for me.
Lovely. Now, although your family forbade you to work, they did allow you to study. So you positioned a job with a French tech firm looking to outsource work to India as another training or learning experience. But the hiring manager said you'd need to train in Paris for a month. And you write, I felt like I just choked on something. So walk us through now. You've got this opportunity, but given the situation, what did you think? What did you feel? How did you handle that?
So I sent out the resume, and I was thinking I would get a job as a teacher in a school. I was
Uh-huh.
expecting jobs like that. And when this IT company reached out to me, I was shocked. I was like, they're never going to hire me. Why would you think somebody without any kind of experience, somebody who just knows, a little bit of French, and I never thought that they're going to hire me. But I still put on my old dress. I went for the interview, and I sat there really in my head thinking, this is never going to happen. And they loved my fluency in French, and they told me that they could. What shocked me was they told me that they could train me into engineering, into coding and things like that, but they couldn't train an engineer to learn French. So, I was at an advantage without even knowing it. And the icing on the cake that evening was, that afternoon was them telling me that, you need to go to Paris and train. And then I had this mixed emotions within me. I wanted to, I felt so much joy. I, but I felt so much sorrow too, because I knew that, I may not be able to go, uh, given that
Right.
situation that I was in, given the marriage. And I really, really wanted to go. But I looked at them and I said, I'll come back to you with an answer soon. And I headed back home. On the way, I called one of my best friends, and Susan said, you have to try, you have to go. Do whatever it takes. You got this, girl. Go for it. And I think yeah, that really changed a lot of, she was, very inspirational with that.
So what did you say to your husband when you got home? How did you convince him?
Well, ooh, when I got home, of course, I picked up my daughter from the golf course and went back home, and he had his friend over, and he was sitting there in the balcony on the canopy, and having a couple of drinks. And luckily that day, his friend's wife had got a promotion. And I just, jumped in. I said, "Hey, I've got this wonderful job." And I remember feeling humiliated because both my husband and his friend laughed at me, and
Oh,
they really laughed at me, and they said, "Somebody's giving you a job, and somebody is going to pay your tickets, and somebody is going to fly you to Paris and pay you to do a job." And I felt terrible, terrible that they thought of me like that. I knew my husband would think of me like that, but I think that had also reflected on the friends. And in my head, I said, okay, I need this job more than ever.
yeah, I'll bet.
So, so I had to really, really convince them to let me go.
Was there anything you said that was the turning point, or was it just he was in a good mood because his friend was talking about his wife, or was there something you said?
Well, no, it never happened that day. He never agreed for anything
Okay,
that day, but it went on for a few weeks, and then,
okay.
yes, he did sign the papers because the travel agent, she sent me the papers to sign, and yeah, and I had to beg, plead,
Ugh,
dance, do everything. But
wow. Oh my gosh. My goodness. So you arrive in Paris. Wow. And describe your first glimpse of the Eiffel Tower.
oh gosh, this is one of the most beautiful moments of my life because you read about Eiffel Tower in your textbooks, you look at pictures on your computer or on television, but you never really think about the magnitude of that beautiful tower that's sitting in the middle of Paris. It's just a gorgeous sight, and it was after a couple of days when I reached Paris, I went to see the Eiffel Tower, and I was blown away, blown away. It was like falling in love with a metal.
I love that. You fell in love with it. It is ginormous, isn't it? I mean, if you're standing up close, too, it's just so huge. And yet at a distance, it's also so magnificent and so majestic. Yeah. Wow. That was really a great high for you. And tell us about your first meal in Paris.
Oh, this was in a creperie. This was at a creperie I think around Montparnasse, the area Montparnasse. And I I had ordered this galette, which is a savory version of a crepe, and they had
Okay.
mushrooms in it, and it was one of the best meals that I had. I wasn't cooking it, but I was having it was a different cuisine. I had read about this in books, and it was so exciting to have something like that in Paris.
Must have tasted like freedom.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now there's a pivotal chapter called The Revelation where you decide to leave India permanently because you had a great experience in Paris. But what was the exact moment that you made you believe that you had to leave the country and not return, not just leave temporarily for like some training?
Well,
Was there a
I
moment?
think, Natalie, I was never inclined to leave. I wanted to leave permanently. Uh, I think that was in 2015 and 16 is when I really wanted to leave. After my marriage had broken apart, I really wanted to leave. But, as everybody, you need a visa. And I wished I had, a permanent visa, but that was not the case. So I always thought this is going to be temporary for a couple of years. Um, and then we'll figure out. But I kind of said to myself, I'm going to, try my best to get to where to France and to do a course in wine. My sister, I remember, we sitting at I remember sitting with my sister and she telling me, look up any courses that you like and, do something else with your life. And I chose France because I could speak the language.
That makes sense. And so you decide to return to France under the guise of more training. You enroll in the wine MBA program in Bordeaux at INSEAD Business School. How did you tell your daughter, Shloka, who was 9 years old at the time, that you were leaving her behind in India?
It was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking because she was 9. Her whole world had come apart. We had moved from our house and we had moved to my parents' house. She had lost her bed, her toys. She had lost her whole environment that she lived in. And suddenly, and I was her safe space. And suddenly I was leaving.
Yeah.
And for her, it was heartbreaking. And for me, it was heartbreaking too. But she was very mature. She understood. And my mother had stepped in. And my mother really, really takes care of her, took care of her when she was in India. So I knew I could, leave her with my mother. So it somehow worked out. My mother was a bridge between me and her, me and
Oh, that's
Shloka.
great.
And yeah, she took care of not only my daughter, she took care of my dog, Casper. So
Oh, well.
yeah, she is wonderful. She's a wonderful human being. And my father stepped in too, and he said, I'll guard her. I'll give her securities. Don't worry. So I had family, my sister and my brother-in-law. They said they will take care. So my whole family had stepped in, come together. So I was not as worried as anybody else. The only worry was, what if Shloka falls sick and she needs me and I'm 5,000 miles away and I cannot, just drive down. I cannot fly down in an hour's time. So the distance really mattered, but I think my mom managed everything really well.
That's a great mother.
She is.
And yeah, how did you manage you said you spoke to Shloka every day by phone, was it, or weekly?
I did speak to her time and again. Sometimes it was hard because we had a time difference, and she would be in school
Right.
and I would be in school and things like that. But I think our bond was so strong as a mother and daughter
Right.
that it didn't feel like, disconnected. We still chatted. She still told me she's a chatty girl. She's always a chatty girl, even now. She told me about her experiences, her school experiences, what was happening in her school, her birthday, her Casper, our dog, and she told me everything on phone call. So I was still very involved in her life. I was there when to fix the meetings. With the golf coaches. I was there to make sure that if she had to be picked up and dropped somewhere, I'd make sure friends would organize that. And I was still involved even from far away. So, and I have a huge set of friends back in India, and they've been great help too. They're my family.
I bet. Yeah, absolutely. So you chose Bordeaux because, quote, as an Indian, I hadn't heard of Burgundy or the Rhone, but Bordeaux was the crown, the king of wines. What were your first impressions of Bordeaux when you arrived?
So when I was on the flight and the flight was descending, I peeped out of the airplane to see this silver snake-like, river that was flowing down beneath.
The
And
Giron.
yes, the Gironde. And I was
Yes.
so excited when I saw that. I said, I felt that finally I'm here. Finally, there's freedom. And I think when I really got into the car, and the visa was stamped, because as everybody, you're always wondering, when you get here and the immigration officer, he looks at you in that very serious face and says, your rejects your visa or whatever. You never know. So you're always anxious. But yeah, I had, once he stamped, and I took the taxi to my Airbnb, and I was exhausted, of course. But yeah, it set in after those other memories, and going around Bordeaux and visiting. I think the next day I went around with my Airbnb host. He was kind enough to take me around Bordeaux, showing me the river, showing me the beautiful buildings, the cafes. So yeah, that's still very memorable for me.
Yeah, and you even write about the mascarons, or the frightening masks that are
Yeah.
carved in stone buildings of Bordeaux. What do they look like, and why are they there?
Oh, they're gorgeous. So they date back to the 18th century, and they were actually carved into stone buildings just about the door to ward off evil. But
Ah,
I think some point of time it just became a symbol of status. The richer they were, the more beautiful the masks, mascaron looked like.
okay. And then you wrote about driving around in a weathered white Renault Kangoo that smelled of diesel and old uprooted vines and vineyard equipment. What did that feel like? You're driving around I think the Margaux region?
Yes, that's right. So I had landed an internship in the middle of Margaux, and I was so tired that day. And I remember going, trying to hitchhike and get a taxi, but I couldn't find it. The whole lot of adventures that day. So I was exhausted by the evening, but I had to feed myself. So they had given me the keys to this car, old Renault Kangoo, and I remember taking that car and feeling a little worried, because of course, I've driven in India. I used to drive a lot, but I've never driven in a foreign country. It was my first time. So I take the car keys, and I find it a little weird, because the driving seat is on the other side, and I start
Right.
driving. I go in little
On the wrong
circles,
side
and
of the road?
yeah. I get
Yeah.
out of the gates, and I'm on the wrong side of the roads. I see this car coming right at me, and he's screaming profanities at me. And, it initially didn't strike me. And then the second car, when it started coming towards me, that's when I realized, oh my God, I'm on the wrong side of the road. I need to switch. So,
I
yeah,
so
that was very
empathize with
funny.
you, Nam. Yeah, I was riding around in Bordeaux, and it was the wrong side for me too. And this was before, probably as with you, the days before GPS. So I've got this map all spread out between my seat, the driver's seat, and the passenger, and
Oh,
trying
good
to figure
Lord.
out. It's like crazy trying to figure out my way out of Paris and into Bordeaux. But yeah, yeah, I feel for you. So you mentioned this. You landed an internship at Chateau Syrah in Margaux as part of your MBA work study program, and you write about 90 hectares of peace that gave you back a sense of normality. Paint us a picture of what that looked like and how you felt.
I felt I felt peace. And I was scared. I
What were you
felt
scared
peace.
of?
Um, the 88 hectares actually consisted of woods. It consisted of a river, um, a lot of wines, and there was this church, and there was a cemetery beyond all of this, and the castle, of course, um, and the little outhouse that I was living in. The During the day it was beautiful. There were people around. people were coming from all parts of the world. It was beautiful. I used to watch the sunset, go into the vineyards and watch the sunset, which was so
Mm.
healing. But then I would go back into the house, which was so calm. I was the only person there. In the evenings, it got really, really dark, and they had these statues with spotlights beneath it. And you peep out of the window. It's dark, but with these statues, the face is highlighted. And it was really scary. I think I took a few
Sounds spooky.
months, few months to really settle down there.
Yeah, because you write about your first night there. You hear a clattering on the rooftop, and then see two glinting eyes staring back at you. What was that?
So the first night, to make it even worse, I'm sitting over there and I'm trying to entertain myself, playing music and this and that. And at some point, I knew I had to go to bed because the next day I had work. And I sit in bed, cover myself, and I'm sitting there and thinking I'm going to fall asleep soon. But then I see this bat that's hanging upside down near the window and staring right at me. And I was petrified. And I hear
I'll
this
bet.
sound on the roof, and I was even more scared. And I was like, why the hell would I choose to come to the countryside? I'm telling myself, I'm cheating myself. And then, of course, I thought the next day morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to excuse myself. I'm going to leave. But then actually when it sunk in the next day, I was feeling like, I can't do this. I had a lot at stake. I needed to prove myself. I needed to be here, especially because getting an internship in Bordeaux as a foreigner and especially as an Indian
Mm.
was really, really hard at that time. Not many people had landed internships. So I was one of the lucky ones to have got this job. And, it was that or, you know, the unknown after.
Right, right. Because your visa depends on you working. And Chateau Sirene, for anyone who's not familiar, is a very prestigious chateau in Bordeaux. So that would have been a great training experience. You write about terroir being by far the sexiest word I have heard from a French man's mouth. What was it? What was it about that concept of terroir or the word that captivated you?
I think terroir is when you listen to it from a French person's mouth. They roll those R's and it's really a sexy word. But I think that it's also the identity of a place as a whole that gives the wine that charm. Um, it's not just the climate, it's the soil, it's the hands of the winemaker. And I think it's just the only word in the world that exists like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you write that wine changed you entirely. So what part of yourself did wine give back to you, if that's the correct way to word it?
I think wine for me was knowledge and it gave me confidence, confidence that I didn't have before. Wine and French both gave me confidence to be able to speak and explain wine and taste wine and talk about wine in a different language. I think those were two amazing skills that I had acquired, and it gave me the confidence of being amongst people and talking.
Oh, I see another parallel too. Like I always thought I'd love to be a writer, but I could never earn a living at it. But once I had that sort of knowledge of wine, that gave me the confidence to like pitch magazines and newspapers. I would have never done it otherwise.
Wow, that's
So
amazing.
wine was a hook. Yeah. No, but I feel for what you're going through. It's very resonant. So after finishing your MBA, you applied to over 100 wineries and negociants, like for a full-time permanent job, and didn't receive a single interview. How did you feel, especially since your visa depended on this?
Yeah, it was really tough. I I was prepared for both. I sent out a lot of my resumes. Especially, I spent time tailor making the resume for each job. It was time wasted, right? When you didn't have that time,
Right.
you'd rather do something else with it. So, but I always had a plan B. So when in Chateau Siron, I had decided if I do not get a job, I would get into doing business. And my sister's husband, who's my brother-in-law, he was a financial advisor, and I was at 37 at that time. So he told me that, if you don't get a job, just dive into becoming an entrepreneur. You have the capability. I was like, I don't have the capability, but he gave me all the confidence. He said he's going to help me. He did help me a lot.
And was that when you started formulating a plan to create your own brand? Was it at that point?
I was actually focusing, this was in 2018, 19, and I was
Okay.
actually focusing on giving more services. But when I realized that, I could launch a brand and do everything myself, and I had a client whom I was working for, and he was an Indian living in London, and he wanted a wine brand. So this was about 2019. And by then I had met Corinne, of course, and but I never thought in my head
And
that
where
I
was she
would.
from? Corinne?
Corinne is from
Sorry.
Blaye, the region of Blaye
Okay.
in Bordeaux. So I
Right.
met her, and
Okay.
we really got along well. So I had the knowledge of creating a wine brand, so I just dived into it.
Wow. And so what gave you the idea? Like you getting confidence, some encouragement from relatives, but um, what what made you move forward with it? Just because you had to do something kind of thing, or was it in part
Mm,
the man you were working with as well?
Not really, because what I experienced in Bordeaux was that a lot of wineries have their own agents. You have a wine brand,
Ah.
you have an agent in each country representing your wine brand. So when I tried to give services and tried to become an agent for these wine brands, and most of the wine brands that I thought I would work with already had wine agents representing them in different countries. So the margin for me to become an agent was really small. And
Right.
one evening, afternoon, I think, when I was sitting and speaking to a friend, or it was on a call, I don't remember, but I was speaking to a friend of mine, and I was explaining that I'm making this brand for this gentleman, and he said, it's a pity that I thought you were making it for yourself. And that's when that light bulb clicked. And I said, oh my God,
Ah.
maybe, I'd be solving my problem if I had my own brand. I would have more control about on it. I
Right.
would be able to sell this brand without, encountering any challenges in every country. I could be my own agent, right?
Yes. You're right. Yeah. Well, absolutely. And so then you went to Bruges. I can never pronounce that correctly, to see the Salvador Dali paintings, and that's where you got the inspiration for your label design. Was there a specific painting that inspired you there?
Yeah, there was one of the Salvatore's paintings where he had drawn the Fibonacci spiral, and I was just looking at it, and I was fascinated because Dali always told a story using those implied lines, and it just gave a flow to his paintings. And I thought, why not use the swirl, the Fibonacci swirl in my on my label. And coming back to
What is a
Bordeaux,
Fibonacci swirl? Sorry, for those who don't know, what is a Fibonacci? It's a
so
mathematical sequence, isn't it?
it is. So it
Yeah.
looks a little bit like this. It looks like
Okay,
this.
you're
So
showing
it's
your
the
label. Yeah.
that's my
Okay.
label.
A
So you'll
swirl.
see
Yeah.
the spiral there, and
Okay.
Salvatore Dali uses a lot of that. So I kind of
Huh.
felt that that would be ideal for my wine brand. And I could tell a story of the wine being in a vat as a must and then moving to become a clear wine at the end of the cycle. So that was what I was aiming at. And I had
Right.
created my label, and then came the wine, the brand name.
Sola cantus, which is lovely, from Latin soli, meaning soil, and cantus for melody. There you get the melody of the soil, or the vineyard melody. Is that what you put together, that word?
Yes, as every branding student, I had learned this at in my school in SEC at brand during the branding classes, and always single word brands do really well. So I chose Latin. I went through 4 months of figuring out what the brand would look like, what the brand would be, name would be. So I chose Latin. In Latin, soli means soil, cantus means melody, and it just made sense because, it's the joy of the soil in the bottle. So I was very happy when
Right.
I found this word. It was like the eureka moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, like, back to the label design, the red represented good luck, the gray, intellectuality. How did you use color psychology to appeal to international customers?
Because I saw that Bordeaux was using white background with sketches of the chateau, on it. But I wanted my brand to speak to people, to be eye-catching, and to tell a story, and to do something with art. And as an Indian, we always wear colors. We love colors
Right.
throughout. We don't have a very severe winter season, but we wear colors throughout winter too. So somewhere I always wanted to play with colors. And I did an extensive search of what people would like to see as color on brands. And I was going with elegance and sophistication, and black, reds, golden, grays are what really popped out, and what consumers would probably go for. So I used those colors in the wine brand, on
Fascinating.
the label,
Now,
sorry.
Solicanthus is right, absolutely. Solicanthus is a blend of 90% Merlot, 5% Cab Sauv, 5% Malbec. You also created a white from Entre deux Mers. So, how have the wines done? I mean, how many vintages have you had? This is a fairly young wine brand, right?
It is. I started with the 2018 wine brand, and then moved on to creating 19, 20, 21. I skipped because it was not a great vintage, and then we have
Okay.
22 now. So I'm really, really happy with how the wine tastes. And a lot of people ask me, would you make another wine, or move to sourcing wine from a different winery, or making wine in a different winery? And I said, I love this wine, and I cannot sell anything that I don't love, so I would
Sure.
definitely continue with this wine.
So, it's distributed in 5 countries. It isn't in Canada, is it yet? We're
It is in
hoping.
Canada.
It is in Canada.
Yes, it
Wow.
is in
Where is it, across
Canada.
the country?
It's been a couple of
LCBO?
years now. Yes, it's at the
Okay.
LCBO I think it's in about 69 LCBO stores across Ontario. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just thought it was like, okay, in Europe. Is it in the LCBO year round, or is it a vintages release that comes out once a year, or how's it?
Um,
What's the distribution?
they kind of ordered put in a bulk order a couple of years back, I think now.
Okay.
And beginning of last year, sorry. Yeah, it's about 2 years. And it's, since then they've been distributing that across Ontario. My agent, Crew Wine Merchants, they do a great job. They also served it at a lot of restaurants. It's still served in Thali, in Ottawa.
Yes, that's
And
where I'm from.
oh God, we should
It's
meet.
a great restaurant.
I'm going to come back soon.
Oh, excellent. That is such a good restaurant. Of course, he's done a cookbook and everything. So it's best
Yes.
Indian food in Ottawa, for
Oh my
sure.
God, Chef Joe is
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah. Yeah,
a
he
lot of
really
other
is.
restaurants too have picked up the wines in Ottawa. They've done a great job. Um,
Wonderful.
and it's
What's the
available
price
in,
point on it? Oh, sorry,
I
go ahead.
think it's selling in, the red is selling for about $29 and the white should be
Okay.
selling about 25 if I remember right.
Yeah, that's reasonable in the premium section. Absolutely. Oh, I got to look for it. I should have known that. Anyway, that's great to know it's available right here in Ottawa or in Ontario.
Thank you.
Is it available in any other provinces that you know of across Canada?
Not yet, not yet. I'm
Not yet.
still
Okay.
working on it. It's just so much work.
Yeah, I know. Getting the word out and all the competition and everything else, but that's great that you're here. How did you manage to get listed here? Because getting listed with the LCBO is very difficult, as I'm sure you're aware.
I know it was magic actually because the story goes back to LinkedIn. So I had this person that I admired, and it always goes back to Chateau Siron because when I was bored and I was, trying to set up my business, and in the nights that I couldn't sleep, I was learning about wine. So I was also looking at beautiful wine videos on YouTube, and I came across the LCBO videos where Michael Fagan, who's very famous
Yeah.
in Canada,
Uh-huh.
he spoke beautifully about wine, and I think it was after a few months I reached out to him. I told him on LinkedIn saying, I really admire your videos, and I've learned quite a lot of things about wine. Thank you for making such amazing videos. And I didn't expect him to write back to me because I was a student, I was a nobody. And he wrote back to me. He said, "I'm so happy that this is useful for you." And he said, "Give me a shout when you're in Canada. I'm associated with George Brown College, and if you
Right.
want to come and visit the college, you're most welcome," and things like that. So Michael Fagan, when I released the brand and the brand was up on Forbes, my story came up on Forbes. Michael Fagan reached out on LinkedIn and he said, "I would love to have you speak in um, in Toronto at George Brown College." And he also told me that I the perfect importer for perfect agent for you to bring your wines into Canada. So he was the
Oh.
catalyst that made that happen. So he introduced me to Crew Wine Merchants, who are amazing. And
Who leads Crew Wine Merchants? I'm just curious.
Charles, David,
Okay.
Charles and
Okay.
Melissa. I don't know if
Okay.
you've heard about them.
Yeah, I think so. I know the agency represents some great wines, so you are in good hands. So
Yes, I
that's
mean,
great. Well, we'll have to put a link to them too in the show notes.
absolutely.
So you
Thank
came
you.
and spoke at George Brown, and then it went from there. And
Well, yeah, when
wow,
I was speaking, there was also a person from the LCBO there, George Soles. He was the president of LCBO at that time. I think
yes,
he's retired now. And
he is this month.
yes. So Melissa had, got me a half an hour time with the LCBO, and she said they will not taste with you. You just got to present the wines. So they did a
Huh.
great job getting me that half an hour, and we went in. I did my presentation, and Lisa, who was the buyer for the French portfolio, said, "We are bringing your wines in," and then they tasted it after a few days, and there you go, and
Wow.
they ordered the wines, and it was another story. So LinkedIn, Chateau Siron, led me to getting my wines into Canada, which is really flabbergasting
Well,
to think about it.
well, it is magic, and yet it's all your hard work and you doing the research and the legwork and being open to like reaching out to Michael and not even realizing what that would lead to. But it's a tribute to how hard you've worked too, Nam, to get this.
Thank you.
And take us back also to that first sale. Now, it wasn't to the LCBO. It was, I believe, a Belgium importer.
That's
What
right.
did that feel like? How did that happen?
Um, I did an interview with my school, INSEC, um, and I kind of, explained my story and presented my brand. Those were the first few videos or conferences that I did. And this woman, Laure, she's based in Belgium, and she had opened a wine store called Verivino, and she was an ex-student of INSEC. So she reached out to me after watching the video, and she said, "Can I taste your wines?" And we chatted, and she's an entrepreneur, great person to work with and talk to. So we started with sampling, and then she loved the wine, so she, ordered the first batch, I think it was about half a pallet or something like that. And
Wow.
I felt like I was on the moon because, finally my brand was being accepted in the world. So yeah, that
A
was
real
the
purchase, a
beginning.
real customer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love when you write. I feel like I had won the Formula One race. That must have been so much fun. And where else what other countries is your wine available in today?
So later on, I started, of course, selling a little bit in France. One of my agent in Corsica is selling a little bit of wines.
Okay.
Sold in Paris, but it's gone down now. I really need to rework Paris. Then came, I think, Maldives and then India, Canada and India. So I've been selling,
Wow.
Indian orders are coming through. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to the winery to put the wines on the pallet and send it away. So yeah.
You're hands on with even the palletizing. That's
Well,
great.
thanks to Corinne. I mean, she's the one who's really guiding me and doing everything. I mean, I'm just there
Is she
giving
the
a helping
winemaker?
hand. Yes, she is.
Karine? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you mentioned that 30 cents of every bottle sold goes to fund female education in India. That's marvelous. Why was that commitment important to you to include in your business model?
I think, Natalie, if you look at my life from where I came and the situations that I've been in, the only opportunities that I got were because was I was skilled at a few things. In French, I'd upskilled myself in wine. I could speak English properly, and I could speak French, and I could bake. And there are so many things that I could do, and it's all knowledge, it's education. And when your basic
Right.
education and your skills are not enough, then you'll never go anywhere. So I thought that for girl children especially are deprived of education. Not everybody, I'm not generalizing. Usually in villages, in backward communities, tribal girls who stay close to the forests and don't have the resources to go to school. Uh, I think I really wanted to do something for these children so that they get a window into a different world, and that motivates them to push themselves further and educate themselves in order to have better lives. So I found an organization, thanks to a friend of mine, Sujit, who helped me find an organization, Mukul Mother Foundation, where I found that the founder did have the same passion as me, and we had booked a Zoom session for just half an hour, which continued for 2 hours. Ritu Chabria, who's a wonderful, wonderful woman herself, and who's into philanthropy and has been serving humanity, doing in healthcare, education, and doing a whole lot of things. And she was recently awarded the Ellis Medal of Honor in the US uh, for her work. And I felt that, in small ways that I told her I would like to contribute in a really small way for now to her, to educating girl children in India. And it was also the book today, Vineyard Melody. When I met my publisher, they told me very clearly that some part of the book sales they would like to give to charity, and the charity
Hmm.
of the author's preference. And I was so happy that, they were into this. So Vineyard Melody, every sale will, a part of it will go to education of girl children in India.
That is fantastic. Wow. And then we have also a happy ending with your daughter Shloka 4 years after you left India. How did you convince your husband to let your daughter come join you in France? Because although you had split, you still needed his permission, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, otherwise it would be kidnapping.
Oh my, okay, yeah. So what did you do? You
Yeah.
used reverse psychology or something.
Yeah, I mean, I had to try everything. So I used reverse psychology. I told my daughter to, um, convince him. And eventually he did get convinced. He had to sign a paper, a no objection paper for her to leave.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it took a lot for both of us to convince. And I realized the more I convinced him, he wasn't agreeing to let her go. And I kind
Uh,
of turned my strategy and I said, fine, keep her with you, but she cannot be with my parents. Keep her with
huh.
you. And he knew that she would be a big responsibility for him. He couldn't go out whenever he wanted. He couldn't play golf. And, she was still 9 years old, 13, from 9 to 13. So, yeah, I guess she was 13 years old just before she came in. So
Right.
he wasn't ready to take up that responsibility. So it's somewhere it settled into him that it's better that I let her go.
Huh. Wow. Um, and so September 2020 at Charles de Gaulle Airport in France, when Shloka finally arrived, I'm tingling. What did you imagine Shloka meeting the new you? What were you excited about and what were you afraid of?
Whew. So I was very excited to really finally see her and see her on the ground, because I did travel back to India time and again in those 4 years.
Sure.
But to really see her on in France and really re-begin our life together, not hanging in between India and
Mm.
France. So I was very, very excited. I remember, that my heart filled with joy seeing her at the gates. And
Mm.
yeah, it's found an apartment for us, and school was set. I found a school for her. I had just purchased all her books. I had done up her room with some IKEA furniture, and we were all geared up to, begin life together. But that's a different story. That's the sequel to this book. So
That's a
there's
sequel. My goodness. That's season 2 of your Netflix series. And you say she became fluent, seamlessly integrated. Now she's an adult, a professional singer who's collaborated with Walt Anderson of Kool and the Gang. What does her song, You Miss Me, mean to you?
Oh my God, I love it. I love it. So there's this, I don't know how she did this. She trained herself from when she was 5 to sing.
Huh.
And initially I didn't take it, very seriously. Children like to sing. But when she actually started singing, she was about, I think about uh, 8 years old, and then she moved on to 12 years old. 12 years old when I realized, okay, she does have a great voice. And we did a recording in India at a studio, and her voice was speckless. And she did that whole take, they did a take for the whole song in one go. So
Wow.
they were very impressed with her. And when she came to France, I was encouraging her to learn more, understand this better. And of course, like
Hmm.
how I found solace in wine, she had found solace with music, and she was
Mm.
holding on to music to erase the trauma of her past. Um, so somewhere we met a few years back. We met Wolf, who's a part of the Kool and the Gang, who's the youngest band member, but he's not a part of Kool and the Gang, but he goes on tours with them. So, well, he had offered to train her because he loved her voice so much and mentor her. And at that point, I was looking for a mentor because I couldn't mentor her. I had no idea about music and how that world works. So we were sitting at breakfast at one of my friend's winery in Champagne. That's a different story altogether. It's a crazy story. But my friend in Champagne supplies wine for Kool and the Gang, and she had invited us for the 40th birthday of her winery, anniversary of her winery, and we went there against all odds because that was the first day of Olympics, and they had set fire to the rails, so we were delayed by 4 hours. We didn't even know if we were going to get there, but that excitement was there. So finally we got there to Champagne, and then we discovered Kool and the Gang there, and we were the only people who were speaking in English. So automatically we really got along, in that situation, and we connected. And we were staying pretty much in the same hotel. So we met at breakfast, and my daughter was sitting at the breakfast table, and she's like, "No, don't play my song, don't play my song." And I looked at her like, "This is the only chance, you know."
Oh, so you played the song for Kool and the Gang?
Yes, I played one of her songs, and they were pretty impressed. And I told them that I'm looking for a mentor, and Wolf was sitting beside me. He said, "I'd be happy to mentor," and he's an amazing, amazing person, amazing singer, of course, artist, but amazing human being himself.
Huh. What a story. My goodness, you do have 3 or 4 seasons in you with Netflix. So now she's settled, she's successful, you're both happy. You're now the program director at INSEAD, the same school where you got your MBA. What does it mean to return to that role? Kind of a full circle moment.
Oh my God, it's exciting. It's exciting, especially because I'm with students, and they are, and I was sitting there a few years back, in their place, and wondering how this whole world works, and to be there and to tell them that, I made it through. I could get from you to becoming me, launching a brand, and, putting myself out in the world and being fearless. I think they get inspired. A lot of people have come and told me that, I've inspired them in a lot of ways. And I'm always there for them. I tell them, call me anytime, day, night, anytime. I'm always there for you. And yeah, and the staff, my colleagues, they're all wonderful. So it has been a wonderful experience going back to school as a teacher, as a professor.
Wow. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up with a few quick fire questions. In the Museum of Namratha Stanley, which 3 objects would be on the central display?
That's a very interesting question, Natalie. And a trick question, but...
Oh, no, it's not meant to be a trick question. You could say your bottle of wine. I'm leading the witness now. But yeah, what 3 things would mean the most to you there?
I think you're right. I'd have my bottle of wine there, Solicantus there. Yeah. I'd have my book, Vineyard Melody there. And then I would have another thing that is going to come soon. So I won't spoil the surprise.
Ah, okay. So
in a few years, maybe.
That exhibit is coming soon. Okay, great. Story to be continued. And if you could share a bottle of wine with any person outside the wine world, living or dead, who would that be?
Oh, Andrea Bocelli.
Oh, the singer, the blind singer, Italian
oh my God.
Opera singer.
Oh my God, I get goosebumps every time I hear him sing. Andrea Bocelli, I think he's the guy I would love to spend an evening with.
You'd bring your wine?
I'd bring my wine, of course, but I would share a Chambol Musigny Les Amoureuses with him.
Okay. Sounds great. What would you ask him?
I would ask him to sing.
Ah, okay, fair enough. Another Vineyard Melody in another sense. That's great, Nam. As we wrap up our conversation, is there anything we haven't covered that you'd like to mention?
I think there's something that I want to really mention to the viewers. So a lot of people have known me as Namratha Prashant, and now the book is coming out as Namratha Stanley. I'm the same person. Nothing has changed.
Ah,
It's just that I changed into my maiden name, that's Namratha Stanley, from Namratha Prashant, which I hadn't really bothered to change earlier because it was a hassle to change everything in my passport. But when I realized the book is launching and I said, I really need to do this. And when I had a conversation with my lawyers too, they said, it's the best to change your name back to your maiden name.
right. Well, great. New you and full circle again. How can we find you and your book online?
Oh, very easy. You can find me on Instagram. I'm Namratha Stanley author. You'll find
Okay.
that account very easily. And you can find me also on my website. You can type in www.namrathastanley.com and you will see a contact page. And if you go into the contact page and if you want to meet me, just fill in the details. We can do a one-on-one. If you are a book club, want to host an event, reach out to me. If you want to do a keynote, I have an agency, Amy Richards from Soapbox INC, who is representing me in the US and across the world. For keynotes, she's the best person to contact.
Okay.
Yes, or just pick up the phone.
Yes, and then all the bookseller sites, go pre-order Vineyard
Yes,
Melody,
yes.
right?
My publicist.
Absolutely. And buy your wine. Yeah, the LCBO, go to your liquor store.
Yes, lot
Yeah.
of contacts. Yes.
Yes. We'll put all those links in the show notes too, so people can find you, your book, your wine, everything, and your wonderful story. Nam, thank you so much. This has just flown by. I loved hearing about your story. Your book is terrific. I know it's going to do well. So all the best to you as you launch it in February. Pre-orders are up now. But good luck with it.
Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. You have been
Ah,
doing amazing work. And thank you
thank you.
really for having me here and asking these wonderful questions that helps me connect with you and also the audience of your podcast. Thank you.
Awesome. Terrific, Namratha. So don't log off yet, but I'll say goodbye for now. And cheers, cheers. Here's to your success.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Okay.